So next month, EB01, the first extra booster, is coming out. And this is a little weird, a little different. It's just a mini set that provides support for a bunch of decks and a bunch of leaders. One of those leaders is, of course, RP Law. One of the fan favorites, of course, one of my favorites. I already done a few videos on him already, and he is probably one of the best decks to pick up after the EB01 comes out. Now, there are a couple of reasons for that. The first one is, well, the support. We now have Kid and Killer, which has Rush and gains 2k if your opponent has 2 or less life. It can be played from your leader effect being a 4k and just adds to the aggression and gives itself basically defense with that 2k during that turn. And of course, we have Mr. 2 Bon Curie. And his effect, of course, is a 4 cost. You can play from the leader. Is on play. You get to add up 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it to active, which is pretty neat. And when attacking, select up to 1 of your opponent's character cards. And this character gains the base power of the same selected character's power during the turn. So there's a few things about this. One, you get to ramp, and if you do this with the 5 cost kit out, you get to minus and then basically have 2 active Dawn after you -3. And then of course the when attacking option, it is really good against things like yellow or even black or a bunch of other decks that put out high threat and high power attacks. He is a little susceptible to being a 1k body, but that's probably okay. And of course, with the release of OP06, we do have Reiju, which is a 4 cost, has counter power, which is pretty sick for the on-play effect, where if your number of Dawn is equal or less to your opponent's, which is going to happen all the time, if you have 5 or less cards in your hand, you draw 2, which is such a huge boost for Red Purple Law. And of course, this sort of just pushes Reiju as a leader out a little bit, because it's just very difficult to keep up with Red Purple's Law number of Dawn. So yeah, you'll probably see that often. So here is the deck list that I have been using, which, you know, when it comes down to it, I think a lot of the time it just comes down to a few things. One, what are the staples you're going to be playing? What kind of attackers are you going to be using? And then what reduction options are going to be using? Because a lot of the time, even on the Eastern side, for a lot of red purple decks, the ones that have won, the ones that have not won, that sort of thing, and now the ones that people are brewing for EB01, it just comes down to those things. And for me, the non-negotiables and the staples are going to be the Raise Max and Gordon, and probably the 5 cost kid. You know, all those. And probably Beppo and Sachi, you know, those can be argued for staples as well. Some people have been reducing the Beppos, which I don't understand. I think Beppo is just awesome. It can be easily removed, sure, in this Sakazuki and as well as Gecko meta, but neither here nor there. And Sachi and Penguin is just a good 2k that allows you to play or use your leader ability on turn 1 and 2, right? So it's just one of those things that have been really, really good in just building a red purple law deck. Now, when it comes down to attackers, you know, Zoro and as well as the new Kid and Killer, which I originally used the 1 cost killer, which I don't believe allows you to search for this. I could be wrong. Someone can let me know in the comments. But these guys are going to be your main attackers. They're super, super important. Obviously, the 2 or less life becoming a 7k is super good mid to late game, along with, especially against multicolored leaders, right? Along with Zoro, which can literally just win you a game, because you can play for 3, swing, minus. If you have the kid out, you can get an extra Dawn. If you have another Dawn, then you can go 7 or more, which is super, super good. It just literally just wins 2 games. Now, the reductions, or at least the other cards that you can kind of think of, since we're playing Raise Max as well as Gordon, they're film targets. 4 cost Law is also a film target, so you may as well just go ahead and play him. He's a really good attacking body and gives you that minus 2000. He is searchable with Buena Vista, and you know, playing him for 4, minusing 2k, and then being able to remove a 6k removes pretty much most blockers. You add that on to Otama or literally any other reductions, because we don't really have too many cards that actually do that, but Otama does do that. So if you're going against like a kid, being able to do Law into Otama into leader effect, it's going to be really, really good. Well, I guess double Otama, but either way, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. The searchable film targets, along with Shiraya, which is an interesting card, and I think this is more for yellow in general. I mean, it's just a really good card because it just gains the boost of any of the leader swings, and Katakuri is a huge option for that. Of course, Reiju is just going to be one of those cards that if you don't have any other play to make, Reiju is going to be a really good one, especially late game when you're going to be gassing out in your hand. Reiju is going to pick up that slack. You can double Reiju as well. You can play it for 4 and then minus again and then draw the 2 if you're at like 1 or 2 cards in hand. So there you go. Mr. 2 Blanclay is going to be really good going on Kurd going second. You know, and you know, I don't know if I mentioned it, but of course Beppo is sort of the other option for that. But Blanclay just allows you to ramp that Dawn and then just have a viable attacker throughout the game. Whereas Beppo can be easily removed and just doesn't get the value when you need it. But if it sticks, both of these guys, you're going to get the value quite a lot. Either way, this is a good basis, I think, as we get into the EB01 format. This is going to change, and people are going to find different builds for it. I think most of them are the same on the eastern side. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's take a look at some gameplay. All right, so we're going to start out with kind of an unorthodox one, which is the black-yellow Luffy. And I say that because, honestly, you're going to have to play a little different against this leader. And specifically for this, you know, most of the time, as Red Purple Law, you kind of just want to go in and swing a lot of the time, maybe start ramping, that type of thing. But, you know, there's a few things that you have to know going against black yellow Luffy, and one of those things is, one, get rid of these guys as soon as possible, the 2-cost brothers, and 2, Shiraya, the 3-cost blocker that we have down on here. The more that we have on board, the better, because it basically will help us against their 7 and 8k type of swings with their leader, and it just is so valuable in that way. Here we're literally just building a board against them, and the only thing they can really do is to play out some of these threats that really aren't going to do anything. So I kind of have to be a little careful of what I swing with. The only reason why I swung with Beppo here is because I want to get that ramp, and also we're just trying to get them down to parity for life. So 2 life to 2 life, 8k swing, 5k swing, they're going to take it. They want to get down to 0 life, that type of thing. That's the reason why we're not swinging. You know, we want to get the Dawn as much as we can, and also make sure that we're not taking them down to 0 unnecessarily. We take the free block, and we don't really have too many options here. I don't want to combo or counter out the 3-cost blocker that we have in hand, because I would like to play it, and the Kid Killer doesn't have counter power either, but we're most likely going to be playing that just so we can put some pressure down on Luffy here. We're going to swing 9 with the Beppo because it's just better that way, and we have a couple choices. We can swing out, which I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna swing out for the 5s and see where that takes us. But I think I decided just to leave it at 1 and just use the Reiju and as well as the 3-cost blocker for the following turns. Now, here's the thing. This is actually the latest version of OPL TCG Sim, which means this is EB01 with OPL6, which doesn't have OPL7, any of that. Luffy does have a few new cards out of EB01, which includes the 1 cost that draws them a life. It doesn't include the OPL7 stuff, but is enough to get them going. So I'm surprised they didn't actually get too far. And if they're using a Harari here, they can just use a 2-cost afterwards, after placing something in their life, and then go down to 0. So I'm very curious to see, or curious of what was in their hand, because it's pretty surprising after all these searches and after all these cards out of life, they didn't really have too many plays. And now I'm just deciding how I want to do my Dawn usage. I think 6s is probably going to be fine. We do have Kid and Killer. We're probably going to put him up to 8 as well. We could effectively not do it this way, where we could play the Shariah and then -3. But I think this is fine because what I want to do is just get the ratio out either way. It's going to cost 2 for costs, basically. Like, we're going to pay for 4 and then -3 and use the 4, that type of thing. And we get the double bonus, which effectively gets us the Dawn, ramps us 1 with Useless Kid, and then draws us the 2 cards to get our hand up there. And I think this is a really good showcase of all the support and all of the cool things you can do with Law now out of EB01. Not much of a game, but I think this, again, just shows exactly what you kind of want to do, or at least what your intentions are. He does play the Gecko Moria, the 8 cost here. He does use his leader effect for the first time, being able to discard a card and place 2 Sabos, which I think he kind of misplayed. I think you're supposed to discard the card, play the Luffy, play the Sabo. That way you're going to have the 9k leader afterwards, because the double Sabo is really not going to do too much for you. And this is where the 3-cost blocker also comes into play, because now he's a 7k leader. Our 3-cost blocker is going to gain that same boost, and it was the quick the quick DC afterwards. So there you go. Again, not much of a game, but a good showcase. And we're going to take a look at a Gecko game that's a little bit more involved. So we do choose to go second in this game. In my experience, you know, going against Gecko, it's not too bad as long as we have the options to remove their 4-cost bodies, or their 5k bodies, really. And we do have Gordon, and as well as Raisemax. We did open Mr. Bonclay as well for the on-curve ramp, which is probably what we're going to be doing, and then play the Useless Kid afterwards, and then just start doing some cool stuff. So that's what we're going to do here. He can remove it. That's cool. Just go ahead and just use your resources to do that. I don't really care. And yeah, in my experience against Gecko, it's manageable. I don't think it's like a super good like 60-40 matchup. I think it's like a good 50-50. It also depends on what you draw, and as well as what the pilot does against well, both really, what you do against Gecko and how you manage their board, which you know, this should be obvious of what we're going to be doing against Kuzan. I swing with the Bonclay first because I want to get the boost. If I reduce him now, then obviously I'm just going to have a 4k swing, copying brand new. Now, as far as other matchups and stuff like that too, you know, one of the ones I've been struggling, I don't know if anybody else has been struggling with this, is also Yamato. Yamato has been, it only gets better in OP01, and it gets better and better in OP07. And like, it's just a little too much for Law. Like, the double attack is just a lot on the face, and you only have a handful of blockers that only do so much late game. So it's one of those things that, you know, you have to keep in mind as far as matchups go. For this, we do get the ramp and of course the draw 2, and that works out really well. All right, heading over to his turn. Basically, he ends up playing Helmeppo into Rob Lucci, which is a little annoying. I think he played an Ice Age as well. But basically what we do is get rid of his Rob Lucci using Raisemax, bottom decking it, playing the Reiju afterwards, using its ability first because we had 5 to draw 2 into 7, and then got the Dawn back right after. So literally everything that he just got rid of, we came back with it. And this is sort of the back and forth that may happen depending on how many 8-drops they have, depending on you know, what they just have in general, because it doesn't look like they're drawing any of the 8-drops, and if they did, we would probably be facing the same or similar type of thing. They do play the Sindri, which I think they only had 1 card in their trash as well too, by the way, so they didn't really have any targets to play in general. So now they're resorting to the 5k swings, which you know, this 3-cost blocker really doesn't really mean much in this matchup because they can easily get rid of it. through Mepo, their 2-cost removal, that type of thing. So what we have here is a Sabo that we're looking at, which is a pretty easy one to get rid of. I think what we're going to do is raise max first, -3, get 2 of these Kitten Killers out. We're going to swing with the Reiju first into the 3-cost, and then swing 7, 7, 7, 7, I think is probably the best way to do it, because they only have 2 attackers. We have a we have what, 7k in hand for this falling turn. So you know, I think we can threaten and be pretty comfortable with just passing this next turn, because they would have to commit a lot of Dawn on these attackers. Minimum what, 3 5 Dawn, and that's half already. You give me 2 cards and I can definitely get out of a 10k as long as these cards aren't dead, and that's at the minimum. So you know, this is where I'm a big advocate of attacking with your blockers as well, right? Because it just gives you more value, and like as you can see here, Gekamaru is just gonna get rid of it anyway. So it's one of those things to again keep in mind. But we do keep the Reiju, and as well as the Kitten Killer on our leader. Plus we have 2/2Ks in hand. This is gonna be easy way to get out of it. And he snap disconnects after realizing he can't really do too much. So I hope that this gives you a little insight of the newest version of Law. There's plenty of guides and videos and stuff like that, but I love the leader a lot, and you know, I can't wait to play it when EB01 comes out. I think it will be competitive. I don't think it's gonna win any events like it did in Japan, but I could be wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What would you change? What would you keep? Any matchups you want to keep in mind, like the ones I mentioned throughout this video? And I'll see you in the next one.